December's over, which means 2025 is over, and thus this is just about my last video looking back at 2025 and talking about those movies. Today I'm going to stop and rank all 14 December new movies that I saw from the worst to the best. While I'm talking, be sure to join me down below in the comments section. Share your ranking of the December new movies that you saw. My list is not the right list, just my list, and I'd love to see yours. And just so you know, I'm actually leaving town tomorrow at 5 a.m. So right now I'm like binge shooting a whole weekend's worth of videos and rush editing them. I'll be editing some of these on the plane and everything like that. Heading off to LA for the Critics' Choice Awards this weekend. But this video might be a little bit quicker, might be a little bit more raw than normal, just so you know what you're about to watch. In last place, Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Hey, I know the fans really enjoyed this movie. My son has given me conflicting statements about his feeling about the movie. He saw my videos where I said that it was like one of the worst horror movies of the year, but I said my son really liked it though. He's like, Dad, I actually was very mixed on it. I told you I had issues with the lore. It was kind of a weird movie. Don't tell everybody that I love this movie because I didn't. Okay. Wherever my son lands on it. But I understand that this is a movie that was designed much more for the fans than it was for casual movie viewers. But I am not a fan. I have not played the video games. I'm not obsessed with the lore or anything like that. So this movie felt to me like an Easter egg hunt for Easter eggs I don't care about or don't know that they exist. It was just like a bunch of in-jokes and I'm not in on the joke. I didn't care about the characters. There were a couple sequences that were kind of cool. But generally speaking, a movie that just did not work on a story or storytelling level. Next up, Reflections in a Dead Diamond. Now, this is I'm thinking an Italian film that I saw at Fantastic Fest. And to be perfectly clear, it's just a movie that is so completely not on my wavelength. If you just read a description of it, you would think it was on my wavelength because essentially it's kind of a James Bond sort of film of kind of an aging James Bond type character looking back on a mission from the past and trying to do it right. You just hear that description, you think, oh, Sean's probably going to really like that. But this director is very trippy, metaphoric, surrealist. And so the whole thing, it's visually interesting and it's like zooming in on a diamond and then it goes into a person is covered in diamonds and the diamonds shoot off their body and kills everyone around them. Like everything is symbolism and all this stuff. And so it takes a genre that is very much me and tells it in a way that it is just so not my wavelength it's so abstract while telling a concrete story that just it's a mismatch for me and didn't work. 12, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw. And I've always kind of had pretty mixed feelings, or not always, but it ended up having pretty mixed feelings on these animated Diary of a Wimpy Kid films. My kids loved the books, and so they're kind of super into the lore, so we check out all this stuff. It's kind of interesting. For years, people are like, Sean, you got to watch the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies. It's one of the best trilogies of all time. You got to rank them. You got to rank them. It's like, you got the wrong person here. I'm a middle-aged man. I was too old when they originally came out. I am well past being the prime. And then eventually I circled around that my kids became obsessed with them. I was like, okay, I understand. Like middle school kids, late elementary kids love these characters. But yeah, so the new one, I thought it was going to be a totally original story, which I really appreciated about the last one that they did, that it wasn't just doing something that had already been adapted into one of the live action movies. And then I was watching it, I was like, yeah, it's winter. This feels new and different. Haven't I seen something like this before? It's like, oh, this is Dog Days, but instead of being a summer movie, it's a winter version of it. It's still just, it's adapting one of the ones they already adapted, but with a different skin on it that did give it a bit of a different flavor, but still just kind of felt kind of like we've already done this. Like I've already seen this. So I wish that they would pick an original. Then we have Tapawingo. This is a new film from John Heater, Napoleon Dynamite, that is a little bit of kind of a spiritual sequel to Napoleon Dynamite of sorts. It's not from the same director. He's not involved or a writer or anything like that. It is kind of its totally own creative team that created it. But it has that same kind of quirky nature to it. His character is kind of like if Napoleon Dynamite grew up, and him doing his antics as a grown man. Very offbeat, bizarre. It's not as memorable. It's not as quotable. It's not as original. But it captures some of that same energy that you got from Napoleon Dynamite. So if you're a big fan of Napoleon Dynamite and want to see kind of a grown-up version of it, it might be worth checking out. And it's kind of cool because I got to interview John Heder about the movie when it came out. What's something you want people to take away from Tapawingo after they watch it?
I just hope they have a fun time. And it's a rock and roll. It's a quirky, weird, offbeat, comedy with rock and roll to me. Like it feels like it's leather clad, but it's still something for the most part that the whole family can watch for the most part. There's a lot of different ages can enjoy it. And but it's just bizarre and it's a lot of fun. And I think people can just sit back, kind of turn off their brain cells and have some fun.
Bringing us into the top 10, Thieves Highway. This is a modern day Western that stars Aaron Eckhart. And when I say modern day Western, like it truly is leaning into the classic tropes of cattle wrestlers, thieves, the reluctant person being deputized, good old slugfest brawls, like all of the kind of tropes of Westerns from days of old brought into a modern day context. And so it's not trying to like reinvent the Western or anything like that. Certainly not. It's the opposite of a deconstruction. It's literally like a celebration of the familiar beats in a new setting. Aaron Eckhart is very watchable. He plays this type of character really well. And his character in this is a little bit like if Harvey Dent wasn't corrupted. What if he was able to have like a very high moral standard and continue to live up to it in this Western? So it's just, once again, just if you like Westerns, it's a small story that delivers what you want from that kind of movie. Another one's kind of cool because I was able to interview Aaron Eckhart as well as the director of this film about it.
It's an iconic American brand, and it's going away. This idea of the frontier, of a simple code, a man's code of justice. I like those characters. I like them because today, as we said, there's a lot of gray, there's a lot of lawyer talk going around, trying to confuse people and, gaslight people and all this sort of stuff. And that's not what the frontier's about. There's a lot. It's just simpler, and I like that. I also like the idea that there's a right and wrong. It's not ambivalent. That and you should know what's right and wrong. And if you're not doing right and you're doing wrong, you know it. I know it, and you know it, and you know that you're going to pay for it.
9, Silent Night, Deadly Night. When I saw this movie, I hadn't seen any of the other Silent Night, Deadly Night movies, so I didn't really know how much of it was a remake, a reimagining, how different, how all that stuff. And then since then, I've watched all of the original films, and actually made me appreciate the new one quite a bit more in the way that it was kind of its own story, but kind of paying homage to the original concept. But it's kind of like a slasher film that's pulling in influences from Venom, as well as Dexter, and just while having a romance inside of it. And the blending of all the things together just is a real enjoyable, different spin on a Christmas slasher. 8, Avatar, Fire and Ash. And for me, it's another Avatar movie. It wasn't significantly better or worse than the other films. It continues to kind of have this big, sweeping, immersive experience to it that these Avatar movies just kind of know how to tap into just these primal, very broadly accessible emotions and experiences about rebellious kids and revenge, heartbreak, betrayal. And it taps into something, and it tells it on such like a grand scale that there is something very unique about the experience of an Avatar film. And I've even was talking with someone about it and how it's almost, the Avatar movies are almost like the ultimate example of the Omni movie. That so many blockbusters these days are the cheap, bad version of what Avatar is going for, which is just this universally accessible blockbuster that anyone can watch it and kind of connect with something, and its spectacle on such an enormous scale with such technical mastery of visual effects that it looks like an IMAX documentary on an alien planet, but while having nothing that's super specific about any of it. Even as sci-fi, they go to a planet with green jungles and blue ocean waters with whales. So it's like very familiar while also being alien and foreign. But as for this one, I felt like it was a little bit too much of a remix of the first two movies. It is very much part two to Way of Water, but it has the third act of the first movie with everyone coming together. Few too many people get kidnapped and rescued. So we're repeating a few too many things, but still like a very distinct theatrical experience. Next up, Song Sung Blue. To be perfectly clear, this movie and every other movie on this list are like very good movies that I thoroughly enjoyed. Just, it's end of the year, a lot of prestige films, a lot of FYC films, for your consideration films that I watched. So even though this is number 7, don't think that that means I was kind of even mixed on it. I'm very positive on this movie. I went into it actually completely misunderstanding what it was. I didn't watch any trailers. I just saw Hugh Jackman as Neil Diamond, and I just locked that in as my understanding of the movie. And that's not what the movie is. Hugh Jackman is not playing Neil Diamond in this movie. He's playing a Neil Diamond impersonator. And even when I watched the movie, because I misinterpreted it when it started, I then assumed it was like an entirely fictitious story while I was watching it until the very end of it, where my mom, who I was watching with, goes, actually, this is what happened in real life, and this was the real thing that happened. I was like, wait, this is a real life story about someone. It actually made me enjoy the movie a whole lot more because there's several things that happen in the movie. I was like, this is so fantastic. This is so dramatic and over the top. And all of the things that I was like, really? What on earth? All of this stuff really happened. Like there were real things that happened. And there's like such a specificity to it. It was like, that's kind of weird that they would identify that they played with Pearl Jam. Like what an oddly specific thing to say. Oh, that's because that really happened. But for me, this is just an absolutely fascinating biopic because it's not about Neil Diamond, the big rock star, musician. It's about just kind of a normal guy desperately trying to find his place in this world and do something that mattered, do something that popped, do something that was great, all while trying to find someone else along the way to do life with. And so it's like a really sweet love story, while being an underdog story, an inspiring story in certain ways with very, very flawed characters. It doesn't try to present them as perfect versions of themselves. They're deeply flawed and they have mistakes that they make all along the way. Of course, Hugh Jackman's really great, but this might be the best Kate Hudson has ever been. And one of the odd things about Kate Hudson is that she's an amazing singer, and up until the last couple of years, never really put that on display. So finally you get a movie where she's singing, you're like, what? She's amazing. So really enjoyed this movie. Very pleasant surprise. Actually, I didn't have this on my biggest surprises video that I did over on my Patreon page. This should have been on my biggest surprises of the year list. And maybe that's because I wrote it before I even saw it. I don't even remember when I shot that video versus when I saw this movie. But this movie should have been on that list. Also, if you want to see an extra video, join over on Patreon and you can get my picks for the most surprising movies of 2025. It does not include Song Sung Blue, but it should. Number 6 is This Thing On. And a number of these movies at this point in time, I watched them over an extended period of time as kind of for your consideration stuff because I'm in several critics groups for voting. So I watched some of them a while back, and this part of the rankings gets really difficult for that exact reason. This is the latest film from Bradley Cooper, starring Will Arnett. Basically, is a guy that's going through a divorce and just in the process decides to take up stand-up comedy as just some sort of coping mechanism to find something to do to move forward and use it basically as his therapy to process his life falling apart. And so he does it out loud in front of a group of people. And Will Arnett is an actor I've always enjoyed, but he's almost always done comedic things or then hosting Lego Masters. And this is almost entirely a dramatic role. Despite, he's doing stand-up comedy, it's not really even leaning into his comedic strengths. It's not Will Arnett's stand-up comedy. It's this character doing almost funny improv comedy. It's starting to piece it together, but it's just a dramatic performance, and he does such a great job in it. It's a great character piece, and it's Bradley Cooper heading in the right direction, where I think with Maestro, his last movie, was him so desperately trying to get an Oscar that he forgot you have to make a great movie, not just do the great things, not just do the checklist of Oscar bait, but you have to really capture people. And I felt like that movie missed it. And this movie gets back into just telling a relatable story you can connect with. 5, The Plague. This is a movie that is not, in fact, about the plague. I saw this at Fantastic Fest back in September, and I really had no idea what I was about to watch. I had no idea what the movie was about. I just saw The Plague. Okay, a movie about the plague. And it's not about that. It's about, basically, it's this is not a great description of it, but it's a kind of a version of Mean Girls for middle school boys, minus the comedy. It's not a comedy. It's not the funny version of it with the Tina Fey energy and everything like that. It's the serious, dramatic version of the way that boys can bully other boys. And so it's about basically a team of competitive swimmers that are kind of at a swim camp for the summer, and the way they bully each other, and the way that kids bully someone just to fit in, and the way that can turn on you. And it's gut-wrenching because it's so real and authentic and raw. And it just makes your stomach kind of turn as you're watching these kids make bad choices. You're like, oh, no, please stop. Don't do that. Oh, but it's really good. It's just like a capturing middle school boy dynamics in politics. 4, J. Kelley. This is the new Noah Baumbach film that stars George Clooney and Adam Sandler. And another FYC film. And for a little bit on the movie, Hollywood loves to make movies about itself, and film critics love to celebrate movies about themselves. And so this is a movie where George Clooney plays an aging actor looking back on his life. So it has a little bit of that kind of self-congratulatory side, like movies that are about the cost that it takes for success in Hollywood and chasing your dreams, and the mistakes you have to make along the way if you want to make. They love these movies that kind of pat themselves on the back for how much of the price they've paid for their success. And there is a flavor of that with this movie, that for a bit of the runtime, I was like, oh, is it just one of those movies? But it's a lot more than that. It is Hollywood making a movie about themselves, but it's also a film about a person that hasn't realized how much he's hurt people around him and stepped on people to climb the ladder and forgotten about them. And because he's not overtly mean, he's not a cruel person, he's not actively being vindictive towards them, but he kind of reaches this point in time in his life where, in a short window of time, several different relationships that at some point in time were incredibly important to him kind of crumble for a variety of reasons. And so it causes him to reflect backwards at this moment where he's realizing he's at the end of his career, and just goes, has to deal with it, like the consequences of his success. And it becomes just a great character study. And it takes you getting to the end of it to fully realize just what it's doing with his character and how he's reflecting. And as much as kind of tapping into this idea of someone that's loved broadly by everyone, known by everyone, but no one really loves him personally, and he doesn't have anyone close to him because there's a transactional nature to it. Or the people that would know him, family that know him personally, that don't have that transactional. He always chose the career over them. And I think it's just a real nice exploration that was like, oh, okay. And my immediate like, oh, Hollywood, make a movie about yourself. But this is really good. This is a really good version of it. And it's serious Adam Sandler. For the last 15 years, maybe almost the last 20 years, serious Adam Sandler is exponentially better than comedic Adam Sandler. Happy Gilmore 2 is in my bottom 5 of the year, and Jay Kelley would be, in my top 15 of the year. It's not in my top 10 quite there, but it's like right outside of my top 10. And this is the Adam Sandler that I want more of. And he does do quite a bit of this. I mean, Uncut Gems wasn't that many years ago. Hustle, the basketball movie. He is doing a good bit of serious Adam Sandler, and then also doing the lazy comedies too. In third place, The Housemaid, and this is a movie that I was generally speaking kind of excited for because Paul Feig has had success in this genre, but he's wildly inconsistent. So even earlier this year, Paul Feig is maybe the ultimate example of top and bottom for me. Another simple favor, his other movie this year is in my bottom 10 of the year. Housemaid is in my top 10 of the year. That both sides of the spectrum, he made it in kind of the similar genre of these thrillers that have a little bit of spice to them that star women. And he's got ones that I really don't like, and then he's got ones that are really good. This is just a movie that it's a thriller that keeps you guessing. That instead of just having one secret, everybody's got a secret, and it reveals each of their secrets like every 20-ish minutes, and you just keep reevaluating what you thought you knew, and you're, oh, okay, wait, this is what's really going on. Okay, that's who she is. Oh, wait a minute. If that's who she is and this is what's really going on, oh, this is about to get really interesting. And it can be intense, it can be steamy, and it can be very satisfying when it gets into the kind of the revenge side to it. It's very, like, Amanda Seyfried brings the bonkers and the campy all throughout the movie, and then the payback pleasure comes in the third act with Sydney Sweeney, and just a very satisfying conclusion. Our runner-up, Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. This is a movie that I am both treating as a December new release, but not as a 2025 new release, for the obvious reasons that the original version of this film came out over 20 years ago, but this is the first time that this version of the film has been released. Same with Bahubali the Epic, another movie that came out 10 years ago, but this is a new version of it, so technically kind of a 2025 film, but not really. So both of those movies might have made it into my top 10 if I qualified them, but as in particular, as Jeremy Jahns got in some trouble with people criticizing him for putting it in his top 10, that's kind of the disconnect, or why if you look at my ranking of this month versus my top 10 of the year, why it's not in there. It came out over 20 years ago. I'm not going to include it in mine, though I'm not holding it against anyone that has done that because it's an amazing movie. Anyway, obviously Quentin Tarantino is one of my favorite directors of all time, one of the most interesting directors that has such a distinct voice with his dialogue, with the way that he structures his stories, the way that he plays homage to the movies that he loves. It's distinct and unique. And you get that with Kill Bill, with his celebration of martial arts movies, spaghetti westerns, anime, and more. And I think part one is better than part two, more satisfying. I think part two is a little bit too talky, but still just, when you talk about movies that cut through, stand the test of time, despite my issues that I have, you remember it. It matters. You care about it. It's not just one of these movies that just disappears. He makes movies that actually leave an impression, that stand out, that are different. And what's cool about The Whole Bloody Affair is the biggest change isn't that they added 7 minutes to the anime section or any extra scenes they added, or that they cut like a remix of something or something, anything like that. The biggest change in the movie is they cut one line of dialogue. That in the 2-part version, part one ends with a line of dialogue about the baby and they cut that one line of dialogue out, and it actually changes the entire experience of the back half of this story, because when information is revealed matters. And by giving us that information at the end of part 1, it puts the audience ahead of the character. And by removing that line of dialogue, it has the audience have the same information as the character. And it changes the experience, and the huge reveal moment in the movie is radically changed based off that. It was a very cool way to take a movie I've already seen before, and through the smallest of changes, literally one line of dialogue removed, made a very different experience. But Tarantino's one of the masters, one of the best, and I got to see this on the big screen. That's awesome. But coming in at number 1, Marty Supreme. We got 2 Safdie brothers movies this year. Each brother put out their own movie. I would have bet money that I was going to prefer the Smashing Machine over the Ping Pong movie. I was wrong. Smashing Machine had great things, but underwhelming overall. And Marty Supreme, what an invigorating, chaotic, satisfying movie. That Marty Supreme is such a weird character that he's so captivating because he's energetic, so driven, has so much perseverance, and can talk his way into anything, but he never knows when to stop. And he never thinks down the road. So he'll talk himself into something and then get himself in trouble in the exact same conversation. The whole thing starts to fall apart. And it brings just this chaos to this movie that's about ping pong. But it's so not a classic sports movie. It's uncut gems in the world of sports. And as much as we are dealing with his talent as a ping pong player, it's about his insane love life. It is about his insane efforts to get money that go places you're like, I can't believe we went there. It is a wild movie that is unpredictable, that still delivers the big payoff that you want from a sports movie. So a very cool experience of a movie that absolutely cut through in a year with a lot of, familiar franchise movies. Man, this was something fresh and different. So it comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, I've got a bunch of end of the year videos also coming out right now. Most anticipated's happening soon. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.